What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Save Point Podcast, Episode 6. I am Alex, and I'm always joined here by my co-host, Sway, and we have a very, very exciting episode. We've been teasing it or talking about it for a while. We want to talk about Fire Emblem. At the time you will be watching this, we're only about a week or so away. So we want to kind of throw in these previews. I'm sure we'll do similar things for, like Forspoken and Dead Space. As the games come, it'll organically, I think, work its way into our conversation. But as we always do, let's just start out with, what we've been doing, what we've been up to, and then we're going to get, head deep into the Fire Emblem knowledge. So, Sway, you take it away. How's it going? What you been up to?
Things were going pretty swell. I've actually, in order to prepare for Fire Emblem, I've actually gotten back into Midnight Suns.
Me too.
So, I haven't gotten that far between work and outside stuff, but Steam Deck is life. So, I was able to play it. Loving it, man. It is so beautiful to get back into.
Yeah.
So good.
Where are you? Do you know? Because I just did a couple. I actually, for the first time ever, did 2 story missions in the same night. Normally, I do one. I do like 12 side things, and the next day I'll do one. But I actually have done, because I've maxed out some of the friendships now. Like I actually was just playing last night. I put in like 4 hours. I'm 31 hours in all the way, or, counting everything. I maxed out Captain Marvel, Nico, and I think, or maybe that's it in myself, I guess. I did like the legendary mission. Man, that game gets so good with the more time you put in. Because of those dang addicting cards and just the power level that you can get with those things. I love it. I love it so much.
So I've done mostly side things.
Okay.
Like some of the side battles that you can do.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I was able to knock out. I didn't want to start story until like I had enough time to set aside to just like run through it.
Yeah.
But
it's probably for the best.
I think my Doctor Strange is almost he's almost maxed.
Nice.
My Spider-Man is way lower than I like him to be, but that's also due to me not playing him nearly as much. So
I've definitely gotten them into categories where it's like Spider-Man, Iron Man, Blade, and Ghost Rider I like never use. They just have found themselves on the outside looking in. And then people like Magic, I try to take as much as possible. Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange is really powerful. I've heard, though, that Magic is like the most OP, of the entire group, which I can believe. Because once you get up there with her, but you yourself as a character, I mean, the abilities you can do, dear God, it gets good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like Magic and Captain Marvel so far is the one that I've noticed, at least, that's just like a beast.
Yes, she is.
Like it's binary mode.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So I haven't gotten the chance to use Magic all that often yet.
Yeah.
But I've heard the same things. Like
she's super good. I like her as a character, and Captain America is similar to Captain Marvel in the whole like tank kind of thing. Yeah, is that all you've jumped into? Well, you beat Callisto Protocol.
Yep. Yes, I did beat Callisto Protocol.
Quick thoughts.
Last Saturday.
Quick review.
I really liked the game. The ending was a little questionable there. But I see where they were going for it. They're going for DLC. My only thing is, are we tying up those threads as far as him being on that planet or on the moon, Callisto?
Yeah.
For this game, or are we like continuing the next game? And this is just it, depending on where they take it. But I would like to be in a whole different situation.
I'm super interested to see that DLC because that's gonna be. They left it open to really hurt themselves with.
Yes, they did.
But also maybe they didn't, depending on who. And you could choose. You don't have to just choose to play as him if they don't want to. But I feel like her and that continuing storyline, that's the sequel. Him getting off and reuniting with her, that's the DLC. That's kind of where I assume they're going to do, just because.
That's what I hope they do.
Yeah, well, because they have him, they have the assets. It's the same boss, same, like all that kind of stuff. So I just assume that's the plan. But I don't know. I think we should. I forgot because I covered the DLC or like their whole season pass idea. I mean, we'll definitely get it this calendar year. But if a trailer, I'd be really interested to see that trailer. Oh man, well, I'm glad you beat it, and you're catching up.
Finally,
You're back in the game. I did Melody
back
of
in the
Memory,
game.
and I beat that. That was like a 7 hour. I looked at the how long to beat. I mean, yes, there's more I could have done, I suppose, and I could have played it on hard instead of medium. But I beat that thing in like 3 sessions. 3 sessions, maybe 6, 7 hours. Just bam, all the
Knock it
way
out.
through. It's an odd game. I don't love it at all. It's as like it tries to be a recap game. Well, it is a recap game, right? That's kind of what it was pitched at as a music rhythm / recap game. It does the music rhythm thing good. The recap, sometimes it is good, sometimes it's not. I would not all the way through, I would not call it a good recap game. Like if you expect to play Melody of Memory and feel like you're in the know with Kingdom Hearts, you're very wrong because you won't be ready to go when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 4. But I'll tell you this, I'm getting bored. Like I'm ready for the releases. I'm ready for Fire Emblem. I'm really ready for Persona 3. Like the second I can play Persona 3, I'm playing it. Like I'm just at that point. Like I need some new games. I'm getting pretty bored. I could still do Death
Same.
Stranding, and there are still some backlog things I could do, but I'm ready. I'm ready for this avalanche that we've talked about. But one such game is Fire Emblem. So you did, and we always have both of our Twitters in the description in case anybody doesn't know. But you do threads. That's like your thing on Twitter, and you do an incredible job. And you did one on Fire Emblem that you posted a few days even before we're recording this. So as you're talking, we'll pop in and out some of the thread. You can go follow Sway and read the entire thread yourself. But let's talk about Fire Emblem. So is there anything you want to say about the game or the franchise before we get into kind of going through maybe almost even everything you need to know? I mean, that's really your thread was basically everything you need to know about Engage. So is there anything you want to say about it as a franchise?
As a franchise, Fire Emblem is traditionally a tactical RPG. Um, Normally it's centered around combat wise three things, which is sword, axe, and lance. Um, if I go down here, I don't want to get the script. Sword beats axe, axe beats lance, and lance beats sword. So those are the three things that you're really going to need to know. But this game in particular, they kind of strengthen that as far as like reward you more for getting the right matchups and taking advantage of it. But as a whole, it's kind of like the way I can compare it is more so to Zelda with like a different character swap out as far as like
Yeah.
timelines and everything like that. Like it's all one timeline, but it's always later down the timeline. This game is gonna play as like more of the greatest hits.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if you're brand new to Fire Emblem, you've never played it, literally almost every hero or every main hero that everyone loved will be back via emblem rings. So it will be a way for you to kind of catch up a little bit on that history, while also getting to the new systems and everything like that with the new characters.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit interesting.
Yeah. It seems like a greatest hits kind of thing.
Yeah,
and,
it does.
And from what I've, you've gone much more deeper, than I have. From what I've seen, way more focus on combat, which is my personal. Like I played Three Houses. My knowledge of Fire Emblem starts and ends at Three Houses. I love it. I think it's a great game, and I would say I love both parts of it. The outside the kind of fighting thing, and then the fighting. I do love that. I don't really play enough games in that genre, like the tactical, RPG. But I really love. I actually hate how like dire things can get and losing people. I despise that. Specifically because I try absolutely not to. So if I lose one, I just restart the encounter, take it back and try to do everything possible. But the fighting in that game is so good. Even like the animations and stuff, I love, being up, kind of being up above and then kind of zooming in and being in the fight. They do a lot of small things really well.
Yes. The animations in this game, I don't know if you like how much you've gotten a chance to see of them.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It starts off as like a little fighting screen menu, and then they're just that they took a lot of inspiration from XCOM. I can see it a lot. I would say Marvel's Midnight Suns, but Marvel's Midnight Suns wasn't out while they were developing this game. So but if you've played Marvel's Midnight Suns and you liked it, I would highly recommend giving Engage a try because I think you will really enjoy it if you enjoy that. One thing you did mention that is not in my thread, and I just remembered I did not include this. Permadeath. So permadeath is a thing,
Yeah.
but it's a little easier to deal with because they have a rewind system in this game that I've seen. And you can go back and rewind any move in that particular battle
Yeah.
to bring someone you lost back. So that will help ease the pain of losing the
Yeah.
character a little
I
bit
think
more.
I think Three Houses had something like that. I think it was limited. You can only do it 3
Mm-hmm.
times or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember using that as often as possible. Do you think?
Yes.
Well, do you think because Three Houses compared to Engage, a lot of people that I've been seeing have talked about how Engage may actually be the better thing. I think some people maybe
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily like the out of battle things that you did in Three Houses, and this one is more on that. Whereas it seems like, at least I watched a couple, maybe it was like a GameSpot preview, where a lot of the times when you're not in fighting, the whole goal is basically just to get you ready for the fight instead of so much of talking to. I mean, there'll still be that, but it's a lot about setting everything up for your group to then go into the fight.
And that's pretty much with it's a return to form. Like they experimented with Three Houses a
Yeah.
little bit. Um and this one is more of a return to form. Like even the triple weapon circle of how one beats the other,
Yeah.
that's coming back. But preparing for the battle has always been one of the bigger things for Fire Emblem in the genre.
Yeah.
And I think this time, like, because when I first got in Fire Emblem, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
A lot of menus, a lot of things to organize, get through, and one quality of life feature, I can't remember if it was in Three Houses, but in Engage is that there will be a auto pick, and it will auto pick literally the best equipment for the character that you're using at that time. So that will make it easier for people if it overwhelms you for the first time, like it
Yeah.
did me for the first time. That's a feature that I didn't have the first time, but I did get used to it. It did make me learn the game. So I do like, I will always appreciate that.
Yeah.
But for newcomers, it's much more streamlined. So that way you the newcomer can actually get in and get out, and you can even skip the enemy's turns. So it's a lot of quality of life things. Like if you don't want to just wait and you want to get right back into the action, you just want to go 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 go, then the game is going to let you do that.
Yeah, I love that kind of. I think that's even like Midnight Suns actually doesn't. I think the enemies will move faster. I think you can like speed that up, but when they attack, it's still generally like I like the idea that just everything moves either super super quick or you can just skip it altogether to go into it. What is there anything else in the thread? Any specific kind of things you want to pick out and talk about specifically?
Out I really want to get to, there's a few things. So there is the smash attack isn't a, it's more of an effect when you have a specific type of weapon. And what it will do is it's tied to the blade, the Great Lancer, and certain axe variants, and it will grant you a break. A break will allow you to damage the enemy to the point where your enemy can no longer counterattack. However, when you do this, the character you're going to hit the smash with is going to go last as far as in your turn. And even unavailable to counter. Yeah, you're going to go last, and that's going to be different give and takes. It's a lot more combat wise that they've added to. Even poison damage stacks now. You do more damage when you have poison attacks using poison weapons while they're poisoned. It's just so many different things that this game has added to the combat. And if you're new to Fire Emblem, you won't notice a lot of the nuance there. It's just going to be like all new to you.
Yeah.
But for returning players, you're definitely. One thing I was concerned with was like they've been doing these games for years. Like,
yeah,
at what point do you run out of ideas? They are very far from running out of ideas from this game, for what I've learned. So,
yeah,
the damage I definitely like. The weapon damage, thank God, is gone.
Oh yes, yes,
Um,
I saw that in the preview. Yep, about weapons not
yes,
taking anymore.
weapons is the weapon damage is totally done, and then the rings. The rings are the big new feature for this game. Is also the MacGuffin of the game.
Yeah,
12 rings. You have to collect them. You're tasked by your mother. Uh, 1,000 years ago, before she died, and you're
took you a
waking up a
while.
1,000 years later. So it's been a while, right? And you wake up conveniently without any of your memories, and you're like, I gotta get these rings. So um, the rings engage system is basically you when you find the rings, you inhabit it. Each ring inhabits one of the heroes from the past Fire Emblem games, and this is where you get into the greatest hits.
Yeah,
I believe the main character, the main ring you'll probably interact with, at least from trailers, is Marth, and Marth is most people's favorite protagonist in the Fire Emblem series.
yeah,
So that would be my favorite ring to use.
yeah.
I also would like to use Roy, Lucina, Corin. Love all of them. But each ring grants you a different ability. You have to build a meter to use it. Once you get that meter built, you can use it. It lasts for 3 turns. Each hero has a different ability that it will grant you throughout battle. And then after those 3 turns are up, you they go back in the ring. You have to build back up that meter again and rinse and repeat.
It sounds awesome. I mean, like I said, I mean, I really, really liked the combat of Three Houses. I'm head deep in Midnight Suns. I feel like this is going to be a very easy thing, and considering Midnight Suns just came out, to be able to just walk, directly into Fire Emblem. And what you were saying earlier about quality of life and hopefully and like being overwhelmed. A thing I'm actually always relatively surprised with all of these games is that they all do to some extent a pretty good job of like getting you in, because there are so many things that are thrown at you in all of these any of these games, and there's a fine balance. Like I wonder what kind of people or what their job positions are called, that they're there in the and their task literally was just like making everything pretty easy, and the order that things are introduced to you and kind of building it up is if you show somebody a Fire Emblem game or like Midnight Suns 25 hours in and they've never played it, and you show it, it's insane. And to build up there, a lot of these games do an incredibly good job of just, incrementally adding things here and there till then you become where there are all these menus, and there are all these things to do, but it's like second nature to you. And I find that quite impressive, I would say, with the gaming industry at large with these kind of, tactical games.
Yeah, and that's 100% the beauty of it all. That might be my favorite thing about like just tactical RPGs in general, because it is how much you have to juggle.
Yeah.
I know like a lot of people when Marvel's Midnight Suns even came out, you would see a lot of people, mainly Marvel fans who are used to more action adventure superhero games, and they're like looking at it, and I know, like, I understand, like, you look at it and you're like, are you playing chess in the video game, mobile game? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
to be fair, like, every Fire Emblem that I've played has been on a mobile Nintendo console. So I can understand presentation wise how you would get that, but it's so much things to juggle. It's so many things. But once you get the hang of it, once you get into it fluidly, my God, is it beautiful. It's almost like it's a marvel, like you said, to just think about who designs this stuff, who comes up with organizing it, who comes up with how you're going to elevate and stack on top of the progression you've already made.
Yeah.
So that is like the beauty of like just playing these games through. And like I said, if you've played Marvel's Midnight Suns, it's honestly perfect timing.
Yeah.
Because it's a month later and you're walking right into it. So I would recommend that you just, if you play Marvel's Midnight Suns, watch the trailers on this game, look at everything you can do. You're going to be right at home.
Yeah.
Like, just like there was an Abbey in Midnight Suns, there will be a base here.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
And now I know you've to do your thread, and I think I don't know if we talked about it in the show or maybe right before the show. Like when it comes to these Japanese kind of games, you have to dig extra deep. You have to look for interviews from these sites and then translate them and all that stuff. Fire Emblem games are pretty darn long. Really, actually, any of these tactical games are long. Did you see anything of a comparison of length or how long you'd expect to be, or even just even if you didn't, do you have like a guess of how long you'd expect to be in this one?
So from not the reviews, but the previews that I've watched, they seem to have gotten through like some gotten through 5 chapters, some got through 8 chapters. Uh, they had spent pretty long, like put pretty decent time in the game and still didn't beat it.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, my guess would probably be because this one is different because the story in Fire Emblem normally you have paths. There's different paths you can take. So my favorite two are Awaken and Fates. And Fates had 2 different games. It was the same game, but depending on which game you got, it determined which point of view you were playing from, whether you're playing from the heroes or the villains. And there's always so many different paths you can take in Fire Emblem versus this game is a more linear experience. So it's like one path really, even 3 houses, at the beginning you got to choose your faction. You got to it was like a whole class system because of the school feature. This is more streamlined. I feel like the creators and the team behind the game could kind of be more creative because I do know that there was restraints that they have felt because of, when you make different paths, they always are going to want to gear you towards telling the story through the hero's point of view versus, putting the villain as the winner of the, so now it's like, it's just straightforward. You're literally a dragon and you're going to take down a dragon. Yeah. That's literally what it is, straightforward. So with it being linear, it's hard to put a beat on it because the paths really was what gave Fire Emblem that extra length.
Yeah. Well, and the rumor wasn't. Well, is this the same team that made 3 houses? Do you know that?
Off the top of my head, no, but I do know it's made by Intelligence.
Well, because I remember seeing Remember the rumors with Fire Emblem as we got closer was that this game was done like a year ago. Do you remember that? That like there was all these rumors online from Nintendo leakers that there was a Fire Emblem game that was done forever ago, and Nintendo's just, which I feel like Nintendo does that for a lot of their games. I think they do that for Kirby as well. Like they just sit on these things for a very long time. And so, yeah, I would kind of like just thinking about those kind of rumors. I do assume it's a much shorter experience than most Fire Emblem games, just because it's been done for so long. I don't feel like they worked on it for super, super long. And some of the elements you were talking about kind of, back set up where it is a more streamlined kind of game, which to be honest, and maybe for some Fire Emblem fans, it would be too short. Like for me, totally fine. If it's
perfect.
Yeah. If it's 20, 30 hours, 40 hours, whatever, I'm totally okay. I mean, we got other games that are coming out, right? Different audiences for sure. But because I was thinking that even for Midnight Suns, where I will say, as much as I love it, I'm still, every time I play Midnight Suns, I feel like I've been playing the game for years. And I'll look, and like I said, I'm at like 31 hours. I'm like, well, number one, I feel like I've done it for like 60. But number two, I don't, like, there's so much left. And it's like, for a normal game, 31 hours, like I feel proud of myself where it's like 31 hours is a long time to put into a game. But at the same time, I'm probably going to need like 50 to do Midnight Suns. And the other games are coming, so I actually don't think I'm going to do it for a while for Midnight Suns. And honestly, for Fire Emblem too, but hopefully it's the kind of game you can jump in. I'll jump out here. And I mean, having it be on Switch obviously is a very good thing for that, to be able to just jump in whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the way that I've always approached tactical RPGs, whether it be XCOM, Fire Emblem. Anytime, like, it's a game that you can always jump back into, and most of the time, more than not, there is a portable console that you can just go with and take that on. So Fire Emblem was always my game that, like, when I worked at GameStop and nobody was in the store, just playing it. When I'm in the car, if I'm not driving, playing it. when you're at home, you have your console, so it's a little
Yeah.
bit difficult. But then, like when you're really sucked in, whether that be the story or the combat, is like at its most addicting point because you've unlocked abilities, you've gotten your character stronger, everything is kind of coming to a head as far as like gameplay and story.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, I can sit home, play this like a console
Oh yeah.
game, put some serious time into it, no life it. But yeah, like if you play a tactical RPG and you're like, man, like this is it's taking long. I love the game, but it's taking long. Like it is one of those games where you can drop it for a while, get back into it.
Yeah.
So that's normally my approach with it. But I love them nonetheless. But it does take me a while to finish them. Not due to, but just because it's an attention span thing in games, other games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and again, kind of just built into its system. It's pretty friendly to jump back in
Mhm.
because, you think about a normal game. If you leave it and you come back, like a lot of games, not, well, there's skills and abilities and you are improving, but generally you're the same ish power level. And if you play it for a while and now you're in like a harder area and then you leave and you come back and you forget all that stuff, you're still the general character that maybe is in over their head. But for games like this, or even like Midnight Suns, what I found constantly in putting it down, picking it back up, there is a first couple minutes where you're like unsure, but your power level is there, and you have all the things that you need to win because you did it last time. So you're jumping in where you feel good, and then you just have to kind of remember the systems and some of the tactical stuff. But the difficulty is kind of already built in where you're good. I found that with Midnight Suns, what I mean, where it's like, I forget a little bit, but I have my powerful cards, and I know I'm powerful, and so I'm ready to just jump back in where I left off. And that's an advantage I think this game has versus like Uncharted, where you're the same Nathan Drake from the beginning to the end, but you could be in a much harder spot and then leave and come back, and you still are that early on Nathan Drake. You're just in a harder spot. It's a lot more difficult.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I actually felt that going from Gotham Knights to God of War back to Gotham Knights
Well,
for a
yeah.
little bit. It was like because dodging is different.
Yes.
So like when I was of course playing Gotham Knights straight through after it came out, like I had everything down. What I'm
Yeah.
saying, I was feeling like a pro. I
Yeah.
got on God of War and what I'm saying, I played that all the way through, beat it. Then I went back to do my second playthrough with Batgirl of on Gotham Knights, and my God, I was horrible. My timing was off. I was dodging with the wrong button.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? Fire Emblem, you don't have those problems.
Yeah.
So I mean, like obviously you play it a little while, you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
But there is no warm-up session where you're like, my God, I either forgot what button to dodge because of the last game I was playing, or my timing is off. Even Callisto Protocol, I'd say. I took about a week or a week and a half off from playing it
Yeah.
at one point, and when I came back to it, my timing with dodging was completely off.
Yeah.
And this is post updates. So like I had to not necessarily relearn how to play the game, but it was my timing had to once again be there, my strategical using my resources better.
Yeah.
All of that had to come back to me.
That's a good point. I know timing is the word. There's timing.
Yep.
Because it's a live game. It's moving. Whereas a tactical, lots of pauses, lots of times to kind of figure things out. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And like I said, with them quality of life features that they've added to Fire Emblem this year, that's going to even make it more friendlier because you're not going to, if you drop it for a while and you come back and you got to like, man, like I forgot what I had. Like what gear do I have? What abilities do I have? What emblem rings do I have? Any of that, there's literally a button that you can use in the menu where it just equips all the best gear for that specific character.
Yeah.
Then you can go to the other character, do the same thing, and then you can go from there and then find your footing later.
Yeah.
So that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're more tailored to newcomers, and I like seeing that because it's gonna bring more people in and be a lot more friendlier to the new audience.
For sure. Well, final two things. Well, number one, is there anything else that we missed that you want to talk about? But number two, I want to eventually bring up sales and how you think it'll perform. I don't remember fully, but I feel like Three Houses was an incredibly high selling, maybe the best selling. Seems like Nintendo tends to do that with a lot of their Switch games. Do you think this stands a chance to be like one of, if not the highest selling ones, or do you think it's kind of going to take a little bit of a drop?
With this one, I actually watched a video on it yesterday. I can't remember the video specifically, but it was tailored to sales. And Nintendo at least is expecting this to be one of the biggest rollouts in sell wise for a game that they've had.
Oh my God.
So they're expecting it to be bigger than Three Houses.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, like with all of the quality of life things, and especially coming off the Midnight Suns wave, because Midnight Suns I think was huge for the tactical RPG community
Yeah.
because you used a huge IP, and most if you didn't use this IP, I feel like most people who never tried a tactical RPG game would have never tried it.
Yeah.
And because people like what they played in Marvel's Midnight Suns, I think that that's only gonna enhance the chances that they might give Fire Emblem a try. And the fact that they have all these quality of life features, I think that that's gonna play into their sales a little bit too.
Yeah.
So if they're expecting it, then I'm expecting it.
Yeah, why would I doubt Nintendo's sales forecast? They well,
Right.
like I said, I mean they constantly are crushing it, and these games are constantly beating. And we talked right before we recorded, like this could be the last year, of this Fire Emblem. You think to Tears of the Kingdom, like this is it. And you also have the most people that have ever had the Switch. I mean, just statistically or factually, you have more now than you did for Three Houses and then last year and the year before. So I feel like, and it's early on, and for a game like this, I mean, I talk about like Persona and stuff. Like Persona's big, but it's not like that. And then you look to Forspoken and Dead Space, like those just aren't even the types of games that Fire Emblem is, and it's not even, I believe, on those consoles at all. So I think, Fire Emblem, I feel like has a pretty big chance to just kind of, again, like we talk about Nintendo quietly dominating over to the side. And while maybe people don't pay attention to Fire Emblem, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Forspoken and Dead Space and stuff. Fire Emblem's just gonna be quietly over there selling 5-10 million, whatever it ends up doing.
It's Palpatine, he's running everything from the background. Yes. Quietly from the side, they're gonna do their numbers. They're gonna put up big numbers. They're not gonna be the talk of the town, but they're gonna be the talk of the sales charts.
Yeah. Is there any last things of the thread or any last words you wanna say on Fire Emblem? We'll maybe try to nail one or two questions from the community from last week, but any last things you want to say?
Questions. If you've liked Midnight Suns, I think you will like Fire Emblem Engage. If you've never played a tactical RPG, say you skipped out on Marvel's Midnight Suns, or say even you played it and then you returned it and you liked what you played, but you didn't get too far into it, or maybe it confused you. There are a lot of quality of life things here that will make it much easier for you to understand. Even if you just wanted to lean on that until you got the thing down, it would be much easier for you to play this game versus per se other tactical RPGs. And then from there you can go and say, hey, I want to get into Marvel's Midnight Suns again, or I want to try XCOM, or I want to go back and play the older Fire Emblems. This would be the game to get, but I highly recommend it.
Nice. Well, there you go. And I'm sure we'll next week when we record, because we record a little bit early, Fire Emblem will come out after. I'm sure in a few weeks, once we've played it a little bit, or one of us or whoever, we'll definitely talk about our thoughts of the game once we get our hands on it. I think some people, Nintendo's pretty specific with the people that it gives like codes out to and stuff. I think Skill Up has played it or has it or something, so I think some people will do it, but normally for Nintendo games, it's very, very limited. And because, again, who cares? They don't need press. They don't need anybody to talk about or review their game. Why?
They're Nintendo. They're going to Nintendo.
Yeah. So I found this one topic or question from Break Ops last week, and this is a really, really good one. He asked this after we recorded the video last week. So the future of gaming consoles and longevity in the decade of 2020 to 2030. How long will the PS4 and Xbox One be supported? What does this mean for the future, specifically for PS5 and Series X? Thanks. Thank you, as always, for any of the topics. I forgot to say in the beginning of this video again, but I'll tweet it out. Okay, so two different points there. How long do you think the PS4 and Xbox One will be supported? And then also, basically, where do you think consoles are going to be going in the next, 10 or so years? So you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'm gonna. My hot take is I hope I'm wrong. Because as much as it seems like I like buying stuff here, you got to time it all. You got to budget it all into one thing. I don't feel like using the brain power. I hope these consoles last. However, what I think will happen is the PS5 will have a shorter life cycle than the PS4. I say this because there's what just came out last week about the liquid metal possibly trickling down in your console if you have it upright, which I still do. I should probably take that a little bit
I
more
think
serious.
they said that was a mistake, but I don't know. I haven't followed it too tight or too closely, but that definitely scared people.
Yeah, it definitely scared. It scared me for a minute, but I was like, well, you know what? I've had mine since launch, and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe there's like it's a case by case basis.
Yeah.
But then you hear, like, if you remember back to when the PlayStation 5 first came out, you were already hearing about a Pro. Like already hearing about a Pro.
Yeah.
There's been so many things as far as limitations on the consoles and what they can do already, to the point where you have places like Digital Foundry saying like games you should expect them to go back to 30 frames per second. So I expect to see a Pro version of the Xbox or and PlayStation sooner than later.
Yeah.
And then I expect these consoles to probably go a little bit quicker than the PS4 did, because as games evolved and with PC just killing it with the hardware, they're probably going to want to close that gap more. Because for those of you that don't know, the graphics card inside of your PS5 is on par with, I believe, what, a 2070 Ti.
Yeah,
so if you have a
it's
2080
below
Ti,
the 30 models,
yeah,
or the 3000
yep,
models or whatever. Yeah.
And I know for a fact that if you have a 2080 Ti, your graphics card is more powerful than the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So now we're on the 4000 series.
Yeah.
As far as, PC graphics cards. And by the time the Pro comes out, who knows where it'll be. Yeah. So I believe that they're going to either make a Pro or they're going to just ride with these until they decide to go over to new hardware. But I do believe that these consoles are probably going to last. Like, if the PlayStation 5 came out in 2020, maybe about, 2025, 2026.
Oh, man. So you're lower.
That's a bold prediction.
Yeah.
I'm lower.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, the thing with modern technology, it moves so much faster. I mean, that's the thing with technology, right? Over the last, 30 years, it's expanded, so much more than before. Just the way it works, things move faster now than they did back in, the PS2 era. So you didn't have to worry about getting the PS3 out that quickly. Now you do, and now within, 2 or 3 years, your console is, in some ways, outdated. I think there's a blend you can't, because, there comes a point where games look so good and are, in that way, but then they lose kind of, the thing that games were kind of built on, creativity, and stuff like that. And because there has always been that argument where you can go strictly down, the visual and graphics thing, but you can also think of it do you kind of pull back? But the thing is, it's tough because there is no pulling back. These graphics cards do just keep coming. But there's, in my opinion, I actually agree with the kind of creativity side of things. I think there should be kind of a mentality where it's let's slow down just a little in terms of pushing things into ultra realistic, and let's get back to making good games, because there's a lot of not good games. And there's games that push it. I mean, some of the, you think of the Order 1886, or you literally think of these tech demo when people throw around that phrase, and it's why do they throw it around? It's because it's not really a good game, but it visually looks good. Callisto Protocol actually is probably that version of right now. Maybe, give or take a little, and that could upset people. But so let's maybe pull back a little bit. Don't worry so much about it, and focus on different mechanics, because I just feel like so much time gets spent. Oh, you hear it all the time. How long does it take these studios if they want to use their own engine? I think it takes them 5 to 7 years to make their own engine if you want to do that. So instead of doing that, just pull it back and just get a little creative. I think of What Remains of Edith Finch. That's a very creative. That's one of the most creative games on planet Earth, and it's a studio of 20 people. They're not using Unreal Engine 5. I mean, it was years ago, but a modern day What Remains of Edith Finch is not using Unreal Engine 5. It's not even about visuals so much. I mean, there is some very creative, art kind of things going on there, but it's more about the creativity of the game. So that's just what I would say there. I'll let you respond, and I'll talk about like the length of time.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I echo that actually. For most people, I think put too much stock in the art style of photorealism, for
Yeah.
example. Too much stock, and to the point where it's like you play in the game to look at it,
Yeah.
but when you have a game, what are you there for? To watch a movie or to play a game?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to just creativity, I think that things with an art style are timeless.
Yep.
Like you go back to any game from the PlayStation 2 era, the PlayStation 3 era. Well, I ain't gonna say any game because there were some ones that didn't hold up well. But for the most part, if you are very creative,
well, like
art
a
styles
game
hold up.
like Puppeteer. Do you remember the game Puppeteer? That game will outlast Heavy Rain, even though I like Heavy Rain more, because Heavy Rain was, real. And even Uncharted, even my favorite, I guess Uncharted 4. There is actually something kind of timeless with 1 through 3. But even with like Uncharted 4, eventually, or Last of Us, eventually they will look weird. And that's why Sly Cooper will never look weird. Because it's...
because he's...
Or Crash Bandicoot, or Spyro, or even
Mario.
Final Fantasy 7. These kind of like blocky nature. Like there's something... And it's, again, like it's so tough because we have been conditioned for decades, at least one, maybe two, to follow the trend of the visual thing. And now it is, because like, yes, if a game comes out now and it's happening again already. You look at Horizon and people talk about the detail and the visuals and how full it is. And you look at Forspoken and it doesn't have that. And so people complain. And I think there is something to be said there that maybe is a little accurate, but the general idea is, well, what if games tomorrow just said, we don't care about every single detail in our Horizon 3 game? Like, what would the backlash be? It would be enormous. People would hate it. We've been conditioned to focus on the watermelon thing, right? That Halo stupid, I think maybe it was started from PlayStation, went to Xbox.
It was Halo. There was like a fruit basket on this one,
and it
map,
didn't explode.
Yeah, and everybody was like, or they were shooting at the tires and stuff, and they were just like,
it went back and forth, and it's like, well, if every game just came out where it didn't do that, the response would probably be the game sucks. Even though, you go back to really just 10 years ago, let's say. I would say 10. You could start there and go back further, and there's so many games that have aged actually really well because they weren't, and so I think that's really what we need to get to, because the idea of consoles, like I love consoles and I'm a console guy for life, but like consoles don't have long left. I feel I know people, I know like it was the cool thing to say that like the PS4 gen would be the last era, and then those people were proven to be morons because like it sold so well. But I don't know if it lasts past the PS6 / the next thing Xbox does. I don't really know if we get to PS7, specifically because of Xbox and or Microsoft with the cloud and all that stuff. Why? You're looking at PS6 and Xbox blank in 2026 or 7, and then do you take that 6 more years? Now you're in the 2030s. You're gonna have a console, a piece of plastic and metal, come out in the 2030s. Like everything would be seamlessly digital at that point. So I really don't think they have. And Microsoft is way more ready for that than Sony needs to make sure they're ready, because in 10, 12 years, it's going to be that. So that would be actually my prediction in terms of like by 2030, I still do think there'll be consoles, but we would maybe be on the last gen of them. I think Nintendo would always survive because of the portable thing will always live. And Microsoft will always. Sony's going to have to just make sure they're ready to go. But yeah, and the Pro stuff is so tough / stupid because I do think the Pro probably comes out next year, 2024. I think and that is probably the mid. I think it's actually slightly later than the mid, but then you think of, well, it took 2 to 3 years to even get PS5s on the shelf. And so it just makes the whole thing, it just makes the whole thing look bad when you say, well, we have to do this mid-gen update to keep up, which is understandable. But then it's like, well, people have been able to get the PS5 for 1 year now, and then you have the Pro out, and then 3 years later, the next system. And is that going to be available on store shelves, right? Like, It's tough.
Very tough. And one thing that I always get hit with the consoles thing is that, well, consoles are the more affordable way to game. So they're like, there's always going to be like a
Yes.
budget version. And I'm like, as things go digital, I want you to realize that your PS5 and your Xbox One are basically computers now in a fancy shell. They have GPUs, they have CPUs.
Yeah.
They look a little different, but that's what they are. They're already computers. And with PlayStation allegedly getting a launcher together for PC, Xbox already being integrated into PC, you're already seeing that. Who's the company that you're not seeing that from? Nintendo, because they will always survive. And so it would just be like, that's what you're heading into. So although I don't think that it's in the immediate future, as in like the next 4 or 5, 6 years, I do believe, like you said, in the 2030s.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked by the time we reach the edge of the 2030s if consoles are still a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see it. Just with the way Xbox is already going, and there are limitations, and like you look at Kojima, like he's trying to do new things, like, you know, there are things that haven't been figured out yet, and that's going to take several years at least. And then that's just the prototype. That's the early nature of it. When do they start getting good at it? That's probably another, 5, 6 years. So it'll take a while. I think, again, we have one more gen left after this one. We'll have one more full one. But then it gets really murky. Where do you?
Yep.
But then, and then even PCs. Do you need $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 PCs? Like we'll see. Oh, and to the part really quick about the PS4 and Xbox One support, that should have ended last year. It will end this year. I think it's ending basically right now. Hogwarts, if you think about it, well, I don't know, like, is Atomic Heart? I always forget to check. But, like, you think of Suicide Squad, Spider-Man. Like, those are two kind of big ones.
Sports games, probably.
Well, I'm saying, like...
they're always the last to go.
Sports games are always last to go. Shooters, like COD and stuff, are always last to go. But you look at Suicide Squad and Spider-Man as two kind of pillars of leaving last gen behind. I'm trying to think, like... Well, Dead Space left last gen. Forspoken is leaving last gen. Atomic Heart, I don't know. I don't remember. Resident Evil, is that on only current gen too? Like, I feel like this is the year. Like, we're in it next week.
Everything that you would expect to be on last gen is what's left on last gen.
Yeah.
Anything that can run normally, like your sports games, your fighting games, anything that you would expect is running on last gen and current gen. That's literally all that's left. It's literally like when the PS4 first came out. And like the only thing, and I was working at GameStop there and then, and the only new PS3 games we were getting in were the sports games. And I'm like, why are we still getting these places? And Just Dance survives forever.
Well, you know what? Based off of Ubisoft's earnings thing, I have a feeling Just Dance is dead. Did you see that? I mean, I think you saw the Skull and Bones.
Not yet.
Well, the Skull and Bones
I've seen the
thing,
Skull and
right?
Bones.
But they said in that report that Mario Rabbids disappointed them because of its sales, and Just Dance 4 disappointed them. So I feel like, number one, no Mario Rabbids 3, which is kind of sad because those games are really good. Just Dance may actually be finished, which would be a miracle, actually.
That is like I never wanted to see. I've never
I forgot for a good period of time
Dance.
that Just Dance was even still releasing, like 3-4 years.
Yeah. And it was Just Dance isn't necessarily my particular thing. I have never gotten into it, but I do know that there's a lot of people that do love it.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's like the cockroach that you just can't you step it and it lives.
I respect it in a lot of it's a respect thing where it's like, I can't believe you're still here. Like, I can't believe it. But it's time, honestly. Yeah, I was shocked. Like, you read their earnings thing, and they talked about 2 games that actually flat out, I think the actual quote was, disappointed them. And Just Dance 4, I think that's what it's called, and then Sparks of Hope. And Sparks of Hope hurts because, but you know what? You could kind of tell for Sparks of Hope because we talk about Nintendo games never getting sales. You know what game did get a sale almost immediately? Sparks of Hope. I got it on sale. It's still on sale, I think, right now on Amazon and stuff. So you could kind of, it's like I actually was thinking that maybe like 2 weeks ago, I was like, this game is on sale a lot. Way more than any other Nintendo doesn't do this. So what's going
Don't
on?
do it.
Yeah. And then now I guess we know why is a little Ubisoft factor there with Nintendo. Man, they may be the only ones who don't like Ubisoft or Nintendo at this point is Ubisoft. Any final thoughts? Are you gonna play? Do you play Persona? Are you gonna play the Persona games when they come out, or is Fire Emblem like your go-to next week?
Fire Emblem's probably gonna be my go-to. I normally try to budget myself because I buy a lot. So
Yeah.
like my second
Well,
game
Personas are
from
on
Fire
Game
Emblem.
Pass. Personas is Game Pass things, so that's
Oh
good
well,
for me. That's good.
then
for
I'll
me.
certainly play it then.
There you go.
Then I'll and then for Spoken it's probably gonna be. I'm debating. It's only so much time in the day.
There is
For Spoken,
so much time.
I'm
There's also only so
getting it.
much money in your wallet. And
Yeah,
Forspoken
that too.
being
So
$70.
for Spoken, I'm definitely getting it. Whether if I get it on day one, that's more so the question. It could be the week after, or it could be day one. But
Yeah.
I'm also kind of like waiting on a wait and see approach. Like I want to see what these reviews are like because I love typically the way Forspoken plays is right up my alley.
Yeah.
My favorite series, my favorite franchise is Devil May Cry. So it's right up my alley. But nothing about Forspoken for the most part has like really grasped me. Things that I've looked up online what people were able to find that the game doesn't tell you as far as the combat goes, that's gotten me excited.
Yeah.
But the story I've just not been grasped by yet. So my excitement levels are not there yet. But Fire Emblem and now that I know Persona is going to be on Game Pass, those are probably going to be my two games that I'm.
And there's like 300 hours for you potentially. Those
there we go.
Games combined. Yeah, no. Forspoken
Plus,
is
Marvel's
in the,
Midnight Suns.
Yeah, oh my god, that's the thing with me. Like I'm gonna get as far through Midnight Suns as I can the next week because then it's Persona, Fire Emblem, Forspoken, Dead Space, SpongeBob, Hogwarts, Atomic Heart. I mean, it actually like this is it. It doesn't stop until April now. Like starting next week, it won't stop until Resident Evil 4 is out. And then I think that's it until Horizons DLC and Dead Island 2. You get like a 2-3 week period where there'll be a break, which is exciting.
That's kind of how I've mapped it out. Actually, April is going to be my catch up. I've already sacrificed that month. I'm not expecting to finish Fire Emblem or Midnight Suns, but I'm definitely finishing Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah,
that's everything is leaving for Hogwarts Legacy. And then probably Forspoken is probably what I put as much time into until Survivor comes out, and then everything is leaving for Survivor.
Yeah,
and then April it's gonna be as much things as I can beat before May.
Yeah, with Suicide Squad and Diablo and Street Fighter. I mean. And you know what's worse is Redfall, Forza Motorsport, Starfield. They are most likely in that April to June. Right? There's like 3 more, specifically Starfield, a monster of a game, is probably also in this that we don't even bring up.
If Starfield comes out in April,
I think Starfield's June, and I think Redfall is March or April. That's what I think. Redfall is obviously going to be first. I think Starfield will be June, which is still tough because you got Diablo and the ending of Suicide Squad. Depends on when in June. If Starfield's at the end, close to my birthday, actually, that would be fine. If it's like early June, if it's the week after Suicide Squad, that'd be unfortunate for Suicide Squad. Which is tough to say because Suicide Squad is a big game, but Starfield is, from a consumer point, I think Starfield will be gigantic.
And May is Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm like, man, like Suicide Squad is in a tough spot, but I'm going to play it. I'm going to go out my way to play it.
Yeah.
I might even prioritize it.
I would prioritize. Suicide Squad gets priority, but if a game comes out the week after it, that just makes it really. I think Gotham Knights had a similar. Gotham Knights the week after it was Bayonetta, COD, Sparks of Hope, I think, or maybe that was the same day. Plague Tale was just a few days before. See, that would have been very unfortunate for Gotham Knights if I didn't get Plague Tale early for the review.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Plague Tale came out, for me, like if I played it with everybody else day one, Gotham Knights I think came out 2 days after, I would not have played Gotham Knights. Because Plague Tale is a far better game in every way. And I would have been
I
2
think that
days
that would have.
in, so things would have been getting so good. Like if you think, 6 or so hours in, I would not have played Gotham Knights till Plague Tale was finished. So that game was kind of
That is
stuck.
totally understandable because, like, if Gotham Knights came out, say, the same week as God of War, which is what it avoided when it pushed itself up, like to being a week out from it. I mean, it would be hard not to because my interest is always going to lean towards comic books, but God of War is such a big game.
Yeah.
I would prefer no spoilers from God of War than Gotham Knights at that point.
Yeah.
So that would be
specifically after playing it. Like you think about after playing Plague Tale or God of War or Gotham Knights, it's like Gotham Knights is clearly the game you could have waited on. There's no rush, which is in some ways it's positive. You could pick it up and play it whenever. But a lot of games would dethrone that. I think Suicide Squad's kind of similar, where it's like, it gets priority, but if a game were to come out 2 days, 3 days before, and I am hooked, I don't see why I can't sit on Suicide Squad for a couple days. That one's tough, though, because Suicide Squad has potential to be far better than Gotham Knights, but it also could be a complete disaster. So it has a huge range.
Yeah,
that I want to experience day one to know where it lands.
Suicide Squad is gonna be it's gonna take priority for me because like any comic book thing is just gonna be priority, but I'm gonna beat it as fast as possible. That one is one thing that I will make sure months ahead that I beat because Zelda in its own right is going to take a long time. Because for me personally, for Breath of the Wild, I did not encounter the final boss fight until I had all the shrines found. I had all the memories found, everything that you can do besides the Cockaroo Seeds, because I was not going to be played by getting poop. Anything else I made sure I did before I encountered Ganon, which I was supremely overpowered with. So that's how I normally play. That's how I play Breath of the Wild. So that's how I'm gonna go into Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And then after that, you got Street Fighter. So I think May I'm going to be very strict as far as my scheduling goes. And just be able to report back. It's not going to be a Callisto Protocol situation. That one was. I felt like that might have been a slightly interesting. Like maybe how much I was subconsciously enjoying it or not enjoying it, maybe.
Yeah.
I did love Callisto. I truly did like Callisto, the world, the story that they were telling. I do felt like a lot of elements could have been better, but that's probably the reason why it took me so long to get through.
Yeah.
Versus like God of War, I just
right. Well, there's some and it's not necessarily a negative thing. Sometimes games just latch on, and it could be a game that's not even very good, but it latches on to you as a person where. Like I had that with, like I said, with Sonic, where it's like I genuinely believe people like Sonic Frontiers, and I want to, but like when I sit down and I choose to play something else, that's a sign. It just is where it's like it didn't grab me. I want to play other things, and in a way, like Midnight Suns definitely is still one of my favorite games of last year. But I like I said in the beginning, I really just want new games. And there's like just a sense to me where it's like I don't even know if I want to be playing Midnight Suns. I just want to play something I've never played before at this point. Like I've never played Persona 3. I'm so excited. 5 is so good. It's one of my favorite games ever. So I love Midnight Suns, but at the same time it's like I actually just want to be playing something completely brand new. I'll take Forspoken. I would play Forspoken right now over Midnight Suns just because it's new. And that's maybe weird, but it's just where I'm at like right now.
Because and also Midnight Suns, like I said, tactical RPGs, their pacing is in such a way where it's like you can, after you've played it for a few hours, it's very possible for you to feel like, okay, like nothing is, even though things are happening, nothing is happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's like it gets like maybe a bit repetitive even as you progress, and you're like, okay, I gotta put it down as to where like for Spoken, there's combos that you can do. You can kind of mix it up. You can kind of, it's more of a free flowy game. It's an explorative game. So it's a lot more you can do. And that new coat of painting that's on there
Yeah,
when it first comes out.
See how that game
would
is.
be more enticing.
Yeah. Well, great talk as always. Great episode as always. So next week we'll be back. We may or may not have a guest, but we are setting one up, and we'll just go with the stuff we've been playing, and then actually it'll be right on that line. Maybe it'll just be talking a little bit about Forspoken, Dead Space, stuff like that, because it'll be the day of Persona 3 and 4 and the day before Fire Emblem when we record this. So a little unfortunate they record, but the week after we'd have those games and Forspoken that we could talk about in the week. So that week will be quite fun, I think. Any last thoughts you want to say to the people at home?
Once again, thank you for supporting. If you have any topics that you would like us to discuss, please comment here on this video or reach out to us on Twitter.
Yeah.
And let us know. Thank you for watching.
The console one was on Break Ops, and that's a really good question. That's a very strong question that I was looking for when I asked the Twitter thing. So I'm glad we did that, and we'll do much more of it in some of the more dead weeks, as well. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you all on the next one.